Donald Trump thinks he has just come up with a genius move. In reality, he is only proving that arrogance is the most incurable form of stupidity in politics. If you don't believe it, watch this video to the end, and I will show you exactly how Trump and the GOP. In recent remarks, Trump claimed that the Epstein case is not a problem for the Republican Party, but a Democratic problem.
You know, when Epstein was alive, nobody cared about him. When he's dead, they care about him. But it's really a Democrat problem. It's not a Republican, it's a Democrat problem. The only problem Republicans have is that we have to get back to, number one, running our country, and then number two, very importantly, letting the public know what a great job we're doing.
And as always, the GOP, the Republican Party, did not disappoint Trump. They rushed to echo that claim at remarkable speed, concentrating all their firepower on Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, pushing to subpoena both figures over their connections to Jeffrey Epstein. In the minds of Trump and the GOP, the Republican Party, this is an old playbook they still believe works. Drag out the Clintons, turn everything into Democrats versus Republicans, and let MAGA voters automatically line up with their side without thinking any further. The Republican Party officially moved to subpoena former President Bill Clinton. A door was opened. A door that, once opened, can never be closed again. When a former president is subpoenaed, the question is no longer which side are you on, but rather if one former president can be called, which former president will be next. Because Donald Trump will also be a former president, and unlike Clinton, Trump has a far bigger problem. His name appears repeatedly throughout the Epstein documents themselves. The Republican Party may not have realized this immediately, but they have laid the groundwork for a new rule. Former presidents no longer have a safe zone. And in American politics, new precedents are the most dangerous thing of all. Once a precedent exists, it will be used again and again against anyone it can be applied to. The Epstein files have only been partially released, but even in what is already public, the name Donald Trump appears more than 38,000 times. A number so shocking that many have compared it to the number of times Harry Potter appears across all 7 books of that series. That comparison has no legal meaning, but politically it makes one thing very clear. Trump cannot stand outside the Epstein story. Epstein is not a side scandal for Trump. It is a central axis of risk. And what makes Trump vulnerable is not only how often he is mentioned, but the legal context that the GOP, the Republican Party, has foolishly constructed. What makes Trump especially exposed is not just the frequency of his name. It is the legal environment the Republican Party has inadvertently created. While Trump was a sitting president, he could rely on legal shields, arguments about immunity, and claims that a sitting president cannot be prosecuted. Once Trump becomes a former president, those shields disappear. Before Congress, the rules are entirely different. Lying to Congress is a criminal offense. Refusing to comply with a subpoena is also a criminal offense. And Trump has a record that even his most loyal supporters find hard to deny. He frequently makes claims that cannot be verified or that can later be proven false. Put bluntly, if Trump is called to testify, he has only 2 options. Do not appear and face legal consequences, or appear and step into a space where every word can be revisited, cross-checked, and challenged with documents. And that is the moment Trump begins to understand. This hole was not dug by Democrats. It was dug by himself and the GOP taking turns with the shovel. And the pressure only intensified when Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton unexpectedly chose a path Trump did not anticipate. Instead of avoiding the issue or seeking delays, both declared they were willing to testify publicly about Epstein. Not quietly, not behind closed doors, but in front of the public, a highly political move because it immediately shifted the pressure onto Trump. The unspoken message was obvious. If the Clintons are willing to testify, why shouldn't Trump? From that point on, the balance began to shift. The Republican Party thought it was forcing Democrats onto the defensive. In reality, it created a new standard for transparency, and that standard snapped straight back at Trump. Trump's reaction did not take long to surface.
I think it's really time for the country to get onto something else, really. Now that nothing came out about me, other than it was a conspiracy against me, literally, by Epstein and other people. But I think it's time now for the country to maybe get onto something else.
What would you say to the survivors who feel
you are the worst reporter. No wonder CNN has no ratings because of people like you. She's a young woman. I don't think I've ever seen you smile. I've known you for 10 years. I don't think I've ever seen a smile on your face.
I'm asking you about survivors.
You know why you're not smiling? Because you know you're not telling the truth. And you're a very dishonest organization, and they should be ashamed of you.
Trump appeared anxious and evasive when asked about the Epstein files. Questions about the documents, the connections, and responsibility were not answered directly. Instead, there were deflections, topic changes, and awkward reactions rarely seen from a man usually comfortable attacking the media. The contrast could not have been clearer. On one side, the Clintons agreeing to step into the light. On the other, Trump avoiding and defending. And in American politics, that image carries more weight than any statement. More importantly, the GOP, the Republican Party, now has very little room to retreat. Once it established the precedent of subpoenaing a former president, it can no longer hide behind partisan excuses to block that precedent in the future. Any later objections will be undermined by its own actions today. For years, Trump's political survival strategy has rested on a simple principle: never be tied down by details. Trump speaks loudly and forcefully, but avoids timelines, numbers, and specifics. That strategy works well at campaign rallies. Before Congress, it is a disaster waiting to happen. Because a hearing is not a rally, every statement can be checked against existing records, and the Epstein files are a massive data trove. The Republican Party may have thought it controlled the tempo, but the moment the Clintons agreed to testify publicly, the story moved beyond the control of any party. From that point on, the focus was no longer who gets called first, but who will refuse. And in American politics, refusing to testify is always more damaging than testifying. If Trump refuses, he will be placed in direct opposition to the very standard the GOP, the Republican Party, just established. The argument that this is a witch hunt collapses because the Clintons, the original targets of the GOP, the Republican Party, accepted testimony. At that point, Trump's avoidance looks more like fear than principle. But if Trump agrees to testify, the risk is even greater.